Welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. For our long-term listeners, I want to say welcome back. To our new listeners, I want to say welcome. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy the show, and make sure you tell others about the program as well. As I'm recording this, there's already over 30 episodes of For the Love of Chiropractic that are in the library. I encourage everybody listening to this to go back and listen to some of the previous episodes because they're not old episodes, but they are absolutely relevant and they're already there in the library waiting to be consumed. There's information there that will absolutely change your practice, things you can put into practice immediately just by taking 20 minutes and listening to any of those episodes. But on today's show, we're going to be doing something very, very different. Instead of talking about chiropractic and being the doctor, today we're going to be talking about the business of business. So let's get started. Welcome to another episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman. I've been in practice for over 30 years, and I continue to work in $1 million practice that I built, ran, and sold. I've taught, lectured, and coached our profession, and helped so many chiropractors build the practice and the life of their dreams. And now, I want to help you do the same. So here's today's show. As I said in the introduction, on today's show, we'll be talking about the business of business, not the more typical things about how to be a phenomenal, outstanding, terrific chiropractor. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is you have to be watching your bottom line or your business isn't going to succeed, no matter how much you have a passion to help people. So it's the business of business. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we all went into chiropractic, hopefully, because we wanted to help people, and we wanted to help as many people as possible, be as healthy as possible, and that's phenomenal and wonderful and terrific. And during office hours, when the office is open for business and you're seeing people and they're coming in and the phone is ringing, absolutely, you need to have your doctor hat on, your doctor head on, your doctor eyes, ears, and hands, so you're working to help the people. But how about the rest of the time? How about when the office is not open for business because the bills are getting paid, the lease is being negotiated, and all the other things that go into running a business, ordering the supplies? Those are the things that we need to take some extra time and think about, not during office hours, but behind the scenes. So we take off our doctor hat and put on our business hat, our business owner hat, our entrepreneur's hat, and talk about the business of business. Because when you're talking about the business of business, the exact business that you're in actually doesn't matter. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, yes, the business has something that it does. In the law world, in the legal world, they call that widgets. You make widgets. Okay. They don't care what the widget is, but the widget gets made. Fine. People get adjusted. They get healthy. They have a phenomenal life. That's terrific. What happens behind the scenes is a business process that is surprisingly similar in almost all service-related businesses. And it's those fine points that I want to talk about now. Whether you're talking about a restaurant, whether you're talking about an oil change business, whether you're talking about a coffee shop, or a health practice of any kind, chiropractic, massage therapy, acupuncture, weight loss, or any of the other areas where it's a service-related industry. There are certain metrics that have to be evaluated that are outside of the actual providing of services at the time of service. So as we get started, let me tell you how this topic even came up. I was recently having a conversation with a dear friend of mine, happens to be a retired eye doctor. And he had practiced for many years, actually for decades, and he had a phenomenal practice, arguably one of the largest and most successful optometry practices in the country. Did incredibly well because he's a great doctor and he's a very smart entrepreneur and businessman. And as he and I were sitting chatting over a meal, we got talking about business. And he said, if I had it to do over again, man, I would have been a chiropractor instead of an eye doctor. Well, I said, well, that's really interesting. Why would you say that? I mean, I love being a chiropractor, but he also has loved being an optometrist. He said, because your business is so clean and simple, it's much simpler than being an optometrist. In the optometric world, there's state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment that needs to be updated or can be updated on an absolute ongoing basis every couple of years. The machinery is incredibly expensive, and you have to have that, and often you're leasing it. You can't even buy it from the company, so you have those significant lease payments. I said, well, we have equipment as well and updates and things like that. He said, yeah, but in addition to that, as an independent optometrist, we have to have, if we want to be competitive, a huge inventory of frames right there in the store for people to try on. And that's all overhead that gets added on top. And sometimes we get that back and sometimes we don't. It's just a much more complicated business model. And as I thought about it, in a lot of ways, he's right. Chiropractic can be incredibly simple. Yes, we can stock pillows and supports of different kind, whether it's cervical, lumbar, or different joints, ankle, wrist, elbow. We can stock supplements and vitamins for the person to purchase in the office, but we don't have to. We can have those things drop shipped directly to the patient if you want to have that as part of your business, or with different supports, you can even go right online with Amazon and have them buy it directly from them, which saves them money. And while that doesn't help the bottom line of the practice, it is a phenomenal service for the patient. Versus optometry, they really do have to have the glasses right then and there to sit down with the person and then do the measurements of where the lens and pupil needs to match up for the proper prescription. Certainly in years past, they would even grind the lenses right in the store. And for many practices, that's been centralized to an outside lab and location to get down on costs. The customer doesn't get the glasses as fast, but it does make it more efficient for the business. Okay, but that's a whole nother story. And as we chatted, he went on to tell me things about that once you have fit the person for the glasses, okay, they do need a set of glasses. Okay, there's then the opportunity, the option to upsell the person, not to sell them things they don't need, but to offer them additional things that could be helpful. So for example, with your glasses, do you want them to be what they used to call photo gray so that when you go outside, they'll change color? Well, yeah, there's an upcharge for that. Do you want to have a filter, a blue light filter on your glasses if you're spending any time on the computer, on your cell phone, looking at screens because that's so bad for the eyes? The blue light filter helps to save your eyes. Would you like that also? Would you also like the scratch resistance added to your lenses? Also, would you like the breakage and repair or scratch guarantee that if something happens to the glasses, you can get them replaced at a reduced fee? A warranty type of issue. And we don't deal with any of those things, but each of those things are part of the upsell that go on in optometry that's part of business. And then we started talking about the amount of time that the doctor spends with the patient. How many patients can they schedule per hour for the doctor to see? How quickly can the doctor turn the person, away from the exam room and back out into the retail area, so that those assistants can then work to fill the prescription in the glasses with those upsell options that the person can then consider as they go along. And what he continued to explain is the volume of patients that you see then relates to the average sale at the end of the day for that patient, and of course, how long that patient remains with the practice. When should they come back for a follow-up visit to have their eyes checked again? And when potentially would they need new glasses? Or is there some sort of special offer for a 2-for-1 on the glasses or something like that? And I couldn't help but see some of the parallels That conversation continued with another friend of mine, another dear friend who made his money in the oil change business. He owned a series of franchises of one of the big companies and became very, very successful. And as we talked about it, not discussing chiropractic, not discussing optometry, simply talking about the oil change business, the conversation went something like this. He said, "So you know, Doc, when we think about a location, we look at how many cars per day we're going to see and put through there. We have a system that we do with each of the cars so they each get everything that they need. The person comes in and we do the evaluation. We see what needs to be done. We offer different things, to the customer. Do you want the cabin filter change or some other things like that? And then statistically, not when we're with the customer, but on the back end, behind the scenes, we look at the average car count per day. How many cars are we seeing? Could we see more or not? What's the wait time for the customers that are coming in, or do they have to wait or not to even be seen and have their car serviced? How quickly do we turn the car? What's the average ticket price? So how much did they sell on that day? As well as what was our cost to acquire the new customer? How'd they find out about us and why are they here today? And how many times they're going to stick with us and keep coming back to us? And do they bring us more of their cars? Because in today's world, families have more than one car. Maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4, or maybe it's a small fleet, 5 or 6 cars. And if you've been listening with critical ears, as most of us do as doctors, what you've just heard are the same basic metrics that we use in chiropractic. On a previous episode, we called them the statistics that run your practice, or the statistics that really matter. But if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, you're not really looking at the statistics of the chiropractic practice. You're looking at the business statistics, and it's all the same things that we just discussed. What's the cost to acquire a new customer? Okay, we call them patients. Once that person comes in or wants to come in, how quickly can we see them? What's the phenomenal service that we offer to them? We do all the things that we do, the history, the examination, the consultation. Yes, all that's true. And based on the examination and the case history, we put together what does this person need to get better, to get as healthy as they possibly can. And we do that day in and day out. But behind the scenes, perhaps we're meeting with our accountant, perhaps we're meeting with our coach, perhaps we're meeting with our office manager, perhaps it's at a seminar and we're talking to some other friends who we've known for years. The smart chiropractor digs into those statistics independent of the daily practice and looks at how long does this person stick around? How many people typically are referred by that patient? What's the office visit average, sometimes called the dollar visit average? On average, how much is the person spending, or how much is the office collecting based on the services that we are providing? Some offices even go further and break it down by department. So for example, if you have x-ray equipment in your office, how much x-ray reimbursement is there, whether it's from the patient or from a third party, on average? That's not to say that we should ever take more x-rays than we need. This is only one example. On average, how much is the physical therapy department, let's break it down further, how much is the rehabilitation area in your office generating? And then look at the square footage of that rehab area and figure out how profitable is it. Look at some of the unattended modalities, electric stim, for example, intersegmental traction, for example. How much space do they take up versus how much do they produce? We're looking at this independently of what each person needs when they're coming into your office. How efficient is your business providing services from a financial standpoint? Because this is one consideration of what to be offering in your office. There's a chiropractor that I've known over the years who I've helped with his practice, and he loves doing a ton of soft tissue, loves doing lots of soft tissue on his patients, and that's just fine. The downside is he personally is doing that. He does not have a massage therapist. He does not have a chiropractic assistant based on the laws in his state. He has to do this himself because he chooses to do that. And you know what? He doesn't get reimbursed significantly for it. So that's costing time and money. The person is getting a service that they could get more efficiently from somebody else, and he could be a whole lot more efficient if he wasn't doing that personally. So looking at the business department by department is another way to look at the metrics of business. Instead of just doing the same old thing in the same old way, day after day, year after year, without ever really considering how to make it more efficient. I think what you're going to find, if you take the time to look at some of these things, that you're dedicating a significant amount of financial resource, whether it's by rent or by time, to things that actually reimburse not particularly well. And I'm not saying then don't provide that service. What I'm saying is at least look at it and make a conscious decision to know what you're doing. And if it is costing you money, how do other practices do it so that it doesn't cost them as much? And is the difference that beneficial to you providing phenomenal care? That's a decision each practitioner has to make for his or her own practice. And what's so darn interesting is the reason that this is so incredibly important is not to make as much money as possible. The reason that this is so incredibly important is because by taking the time to look at these statistics and breaking it down, not during office hours, you have the opportunity to make the practice more efficient, which allows you then to provide better care to more people to help the world be an even healthier place with your care. And as you look at these things and begin to break them down, if you have any questions, any confusion, want clarity on it, I encourage you, reach out to the website fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Leave me a message with your phone number, and I will personally call you back and help walk you through this to create the best possible practice and business because you deserve it. All right, and that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.